What's up guys, it's Tom here and welcome to a brand new football news video. It looks like that Antonio Conte is no longer the Chelsea manager. Chelsea have sacked Antonio Conte. Sky Sports are reporting this, and their sources are Sky in Italy, which is an Italian news outlet. They are saying that Chelsea and Antonio Conte part ways. Antonio Conte still had 1 year left on his contract, and he recently says that until Chelsea sacked him, he is still the manager and he decides what will happen around the football club. But it looks like now that Chelsea decided to sack Conte, and it looks like that Maurizio Sarri will be the new Chelsea manager. He was the Napoli manager who got a record 91 points total at Napoli this season that just finished, and that still wasn't enough for Napoli to win the Serie A title. What do you think about this news? What does it mean for the Premier League top 4 race next season, or even the Premier League title race? Can Chelsea get involved in that? Napoli president Aurelio De Laurentiis announced on Wednesday that Sarri is close to being the new Chelsea manager. My lawyers are in talks with his lawyers to finalize everything. Those are the quotes of the Napoli president. And also Chelsea captain, former captain, John Terry has posted on social media, "Great man, great manager, I wish you every success in the future." And he had a picture of Antonio Conte and himself in the post. So it looks like everything is pointing in the direction of Antonio Conte getting sacked by Chelsea, which I think is very harsh, because he won the Premier League title in very spectacular fashion in his first season, and in the second season, yes, it was a big disappointment, but many of the Chelsea players let him down, and they still won the FA Cup, but they only finished 5th in the league. And I think Antonio Conte's downfall was that error of judgment where he sent a text message to Diego Costa while he was on holiday that thanks for the first season, but you are not in my plans for the next year. And you just cannot do that to your best player, to your star player, because make no mistake, Diego Costa was the main reason why Chelsea won the Premier League title. He scored the most goals in the Chelsea team. He was the focal point, the true number 9, the true goal scorer who helped Chelsea and propelled them really to the Premier League title. And for Antonio Conte to do this in such a disrespectful manner, to basically tell your best player that you are no longer needed via a text message, that's so disrespectful. And no wonder that Diego Costa wanted to get the hell out of Chelsea, and he enjoyed quite a successful spell at Atletico Madrid, winning the Europa League trophy. And Chelsea are already linked with some big players. They are linked with Napoli midfielder Jorginho. This transfer story is crazy because Jorginho was all but done to sign for Manchester City, but at the last second he hesitated because Chelsea offered him more money, which really disgusted Guardiola and Manchester City, so they pulled out of the negotiations. So it looks like that Jorginho will sign for Chelsea. Maybe the influence was there about his former manager Sarri becoming the new Chelsea manager. Maybe he wanted to work with Sarri again, and I think he is a very good signing for Chelsea. But it looks like that they will lose one of their most exciting wingers, Willian, who is on his way to Barcelona, because Barcelona it is understood and reported by Sky Sports that Barcelona have returned with the second bid for Willian, the Chelsea winger, a 53 million bid, and he's a really exciting player, Willian. I would actually love to see him at Liverpool, but we have no chance of signing him because Chelsea won't really sell to a direct rival. Chelsea are also linked with Alexander Golovin, who is a CSKA Moscow midfielder, and Juventus defender Daniel Rugani. So Chelsea have to make some big transfers, but they could lose Eden Hazard, who is heavily linked with Real Madrid. Of course, Real Madrid want to replace Cristiano Ronaldo. So why did Antonio Conte get sacked? What went wrong? I think the main reason was the Diego Costa situation, but also Antonio Conte has started to criticize the club Chelsea actually for their transfers, because at Chelsea it's a structure where the manager only has a partial input of who Chelsea signs, and it looks like that the club has a board which signs players mainly. They have some other people who decide which players will be signed, and they conduct the negotiations. Antonio Conte kept repeating in his second season that he is not responsible for most of the Chelsea transfers, which I think triggered a lot of the Chelsea board members. Antonio Conte actually said in January, and I quote, "About the transfer market, from the summer the club decides every single player that comes here. My first task is to do my job, to be a coach and to try to improve my players. For sure I don't have a big impact on the transfer market." But despite Conte's claims, Sky Sports are reporting that Chelsea said that they have been given a list of targets, a list of players to sign by Antonio Conte, and Chelsea are doing what they can to get these players. So maybe Antonio Conte felt that they couldn't get his first choice transfer targets, but still I think Chelsea backed the Antonio Conte very, very well. They actually spent £202 million last summer. They signed Antonio Rudiger for 34 million, they signed Bakayoko for 40 million, who was a big flop, Alvaro Morata for 70 million, and it looks like that he is not a 70 million pound striker. I mean, look at the numbers, the goal scoring numbers of Lukaku, who cost the same amount of money, and look at the numbers put up by Alvaro Morata, who had a horrendous second half of the season. He missed so many clear-cut chances, and I think Chelsea's main downfall was the recruitment. I mean, to sign Danny Drinkwater, the Leicester City midfielder, no disrespect, but he's not a 35 million pound midfielder. He's maybe worth half of that. They also signed David Zappacosta for 23 million. So these are 5 players worth 200 million in transfer fees. So Antonio Conte cannot really complain about the transfers, because Chelsea really backed him heavily, I think. So what do you make of this? Let me know, what do you think about the transfer deals? And also they signed Ross Barkley for 50 million in the January transfer window, but he didn't play a lot of games. Antonio Conte was visibly unhappy with Chelsea and with how the club was run in some of the interviews. He actually said, when he was repeatedly questioned and asked about his future, he said this: "But as you know very well, everything is possible. In one moment you stay here, in another moment another person replaces you in your job." So maybe Antonio Conte knew that something was up. Maybe he felt that the Chelsea wasn't fully convinced that they should proceed with Antonio Conte as their manager. The big question is, where will Antonio Conte go? He cannot go back to be Italy manager, because I think Roberto Mancini already got the Italy job, and there are not many big clubs that have a vacancy in terms of their management. I mean, Real Madrid just appointed Lopetegui, and Arsenal just got a new manager, and there are not many big clubs left in world football where I can imagine Antonio Conte working. And I think Antonio Conte is a very, very good manager. He just made maybe one too many wrong decisions, especially like replacing Diego Costa with Alvaro Morata, which on paper wasn't as bad as it turned out to be. As it stands, Alvaro Morata wasn't even half as good as Diego Costa in a Chelsea shirt, let me stress this. And also it was partly Alvaro Morata's fault, but also partly of Chelsea's structure. Maybe Alvaro Morata is suited to a different style of play, and I'm really hesitant to say what will happen next, because Sarri is a very good manager, but he never worked in the Premier League, and you know that the Premier League is brutally difficult, and Sarri very rarely changes his first 11. And also he's a very interesting character. He used to be a banker, he's a chain smoker actually, and not that it matters, but I just found it a little bit surprising reading up on him. Not that you don't hear many managers doing that nowadays. And also, you know, in the Premier League, where you are involved in 4 competitions, where you play 4 games in 10 days during the Christmas and New Year's period, to have a manager who doesn't change his starting 11 and who even doesn't even make substitutions unless absolutely necessary, to have that kind of manager in the Premier League will be fascinating to watch. So I'm really interested to find out what Sarri will do with Chelsea next season. Thanks for watching, guys, hope you enjoyed this. See you later, goodbye.